Hi, Mr. OMOYELE Sowore, a former presidential candidate in Nigeria and a prominent human rights activist. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. My time here in Washington. I understand you are leading or planning to lead a protest on October 20 to demand the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu, who is also an activist just like you. But the government calls him a terrorist, and for which reason the government has held him for a number of years by now. Now, talk to me about this plan to protest and demand his release.
Well, so the Nnamdi Kanu, who is the leader of the IPOB, is the indigenous people of Biafra, has been in and out of detention for 10 years. In fact, by October 14, it would have been 10 years since the Nigerian government kept pulling him in and out of detention. And the first time he was released, they went to his house with soldiers, opened fire, and killed a lot of people. And he escaped. When he did escape for a few months or years, they went to Kenya, where he was hiding out, to abduct him. Would you say kidnap him and bring him back to Nigeria? And they've since then commenced another series of legal trials, even though his extraordinary rendition is deemed illegal. So I have been part of those who's been trying to go to court and campaigning to get him released because I genuinely believe that asking for self-determination is not a crime. But you know that everybody in the world, an activist who has ever tried this before, was always deemed a terrorist. So we then said, we have all these regional leaders who are clamoring for his release, governors from the Southeast, lawmakers from the Southeast, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives, traditional rulers, priests, who genuinely believe that one, he's been unjustly and unlawfully detained for a long time, and that his trial has been one kind of a macabre trial, which is a trial designed to go nowhere, and that this requires a political solution. So I opted to lead a protest on October 20th after calling on a lot of people, including people with whom I have political disagreements. Everybody who somehow has stated that they want this result. I'm calling on them to come out on that day. We march directly to the Aso Rock presidential villa and tell President Tinubu to let him come home and resolve this at once.
But some people are saying that if your call is heeded to and the president allows the Nnamdi Kanu to return home, that would encourage others like the IPOB, the indigenous people of Biafra, who the government says have been causing chaos in parts of Nigeria, especially the Igbo land. Then the fight against terrorism, the fight against, IPOB, Boko Haram, and the rest will be hampered, they argue. How do you respond to that?
Well, I have been a journalist for a long time, in addition to being a human rights activist, and I've covered a lot of crises in Nigeria, starting in recent history with the Niger Delta militancy, which is well known. A lot of those guys were also described as terrorists, but ultimately, Nigeria had to come to the reality that solving that problem politically was the solution. So one day, they went and put all of them in a presidential jail. They brought them to Abuja. They appealed to them, granted them amnesty. And most of them are some of the richest people in Nigeria today. You talked about Boko Haram. Nigeria has been giving even unqualified support to Boko Haram. When they abducted those girls, you remember how much was sent to them in cash? About $5 million was sent to Boko Haram to release half of the Chibok girls. Till today, the rest have not been released. So many of them have been reintegrated back to society, even recruited into the Nigerian army. But when it comes to IPOB and Biafra, people who declared at the beginning that they are not interested in violence, this is a non-violent struggle, Nigeria has responded to them in a way that you can describe as being discriminatory. And it is rooted in the historical Biafran War in between 1967 and 1970, which led to the death of over 3 million to 6 million Igbos. Most of them directly killed in the war, and some others were starved to death practically. One of the worst ever human disaster to happen, even in history. So you then look at this and say to yourself, what's the big deal about resolving an issue that can be politically resolved? And we just get over this and move on with our lives. Nobody's going to be encouraged to do anything in the Southeast that they are not doing now. In fact, Nnamdi Kanu himself made a public proposal in the court that if he's released today, he will go back and talk to IPOB to desist from chaos, to desist from violence, because he doesn't believe in violence. He said it in court. He made a commitment in court, and he didn't make it under duress. So to now say that, oh, if he's released, he'll be encouraging others is mistaken. What is going to happen if it's released? That there will be reduction in tension. The Igbos who feel marginalized and who have seen his detention as unjust, just as South Africans saw the prolonged detention of Mandela as unjust, we see that Nigeria is ready for some kind of dialogue, a respect for their determination to leave Nigeria. And a dialogue will ensue immediately to discuss so many of these national issues. So anybody who is telling you otherwise doesn't want peace. They don't want the chaos to end. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are merchants of chaos in Nigeria, particularly within the security services, who don't want any kind of political solution. But the general preponderance of opinion, even if you look at my Facebook page and Twitter, is that Nigerians are ready for it. They're ready for its release. They're ready for peace. People want to move on, but you can't have peace without justice. That
Hmm.
is what Nnamdi Kanu represents.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Shore. Let me ask you this. Uh, you initially mentioned that even people who you disagree with politically, you've made advances and overtures to them to join in this campaign. What has the responses been so far?
Well, interestingly, the former president of Nigeria, Abubakar Atiku, has also issued a statement today, aligning with my position. He mentioned it specifically, aligned with Sowore's decision to march and get this resolved. We've had so many of a lot of people who have aligned publicly. Of course, the security agencies in the country have also gone overdrive by threatening those who they feel might align and bring political weight to our demands. Like some governors have called me and said they would have loved to publicly aligned, but they're afraid. But there's a senator who has aligned. There's some House of Rep members who have aligned, some privately and some publicly. But I can tell you that majority of the people I know and who have contacted have agreed that this is the right thing to do, and they are willing to join us on October 20th. But here is a solution. We may not need to march on October 20th if common sense prevails.
So Shore, let me ask you this question, because a lot of Nigerians are saying that you might not be the best apostle, so to speak, to lead this, because recently the government, through its security arm, charged you for, they said, abusing the president. They said you accused him of, among other things, horrendous names, and which will cause disaffection and perhaps undermine the territorial integrity of Nigeria, and by extension, soiling the name of the president. And you have refused, they said, to denounce those statements. And people are saying, if this is what it is, then your intended objective of trying to call on the president, by extension the government, to release Nnamdi Kanu might not go anywhere. Your response to that?
I'm not calling on the president to release Nnamdi Kanu. I'm not calling on the people of Nigeria to march so that Nnamdi Kanu can be released out of detention. It's not a presidential call. I don't have any private business with the president. With regards to what I said about the president, we're in court over that. And since they have gone to court, we'll resolve that legally. But this is not my first time of getting into those kind of legal issues with the Nigerian government. I think every president that has come to Nigeria since 1990, when I was a freshman in the university, tried to put me in jail. So, except for the time that I was in the US and wasn't coming home. So it's nothing new. Every president, I was charged for treason in 2019, and I was in it for 5 years until they came and withdrew their charges. So nothing new there. But this one has nothing to do with those diversionary charges.
So, do you think the political space in Nigeria is conducive as we see it? And as a human rights activist, do you think the security institutions are respecting the rights and freedoms of Nigerians as enshrined in the Nigerian constitution?
It would be foolhardy for me to say that security agencies in Nigeria are respecting rights and freedom. That would be too far fetched. I'm always in their crosshairs, ensuring that they respect the rights of Nigerians, and I get arrested for it. And it is because they are very used to impunity, and I'm used to resistance or resisting impunity. So the security agencies in Nigeria, you know them, they have a global reputation for violating human rights. If there's a Nobel Prize for it, only Nigeria probably will be getting it regularly on the continent. That is not to reduce what they do in other places to or any level, but here we have more population, so the preponderance of violation of rights is higher in a country that have no respect for human rights and have a huge population. Yeah.
So, before you go, Mr. Sowore, what would be the message to the people of Nigeria whom you are calling to come out to protest and demand the release of Nnamdi Kanu?
I think they've already responded. We're just going to keep ensuring that we stick to the issues because, as you can imagine, the Nigerian government has deployed all sorts of tactics, strategy. They've deployed even threats. They've deployed some military guys in their WhatsApp group today. There's been sent to me some on Facebook to say, "Oh, you have chosen the day for NSAS. You want to dare us?" And it's a subtle message to say, we'll do to you what we did on NSAS 2020 again. But that's all part of strategies to just keep people scared. At this point, nobody cares about those fear mongering propaganda from the government. We stick to the issues. We are very clear about what we want. Nnamdi Kanu should be released and be allowed to be reunited with his family. And Nigeria should understand that when you have a diverse country, and there are serious issues that has to do with the fundamentals of your country, how the country came together, how the country uh, has so many problems starting from the beginning. You don't solve the problem by wielding the stick all the time. You also don't solve it by giving carrots to people because not everybody eats carrots. You just have to do it by respect. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. OMOYELE Sowore, for speaking with us. We'll continue with this conversation and in your struggle to ensure peace and human rights, the respect of human rights in Nigeria and around West Africa and beyond. Thank you very much.